Hey everybody, how are you? I'm Shelly Palmer and welcome to Web3 Wednesday. I hope everyone's having a fantastic week. I know I am. Went out for a walk today here in New York. It's just gorgeous outside. I mean, it is truly, truly magnificent. I am seeing all kinds of strange artifacts on the YouTube data set here. How do I look? Tell me in chat. Chat is where it's at, so you can ask me any kind of questions you want to ask. Good morning, Michael Port and Doug Reich. Good to see you. Frank Quinn. Hey there, everybody. Just want to make sure that you're getting a good, solid, strong signal because YouTube is telling me all kinds of unfortunate things. But maybe it's going to be awesome. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I really do. You know, the chat that we have here, which I'd love to have you join. So just tell us who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what city you're in. Tell each other what you do. You know that you can find us every day on Discord. You know that discord.gg/Shelly Palmer is where you can find just a conversation going all day long. Oh, thank you, Heath, and thank you, Doug. Glad it's looking good. YouTube sometimes does funny things, so I'm happy that it's working well. Twitter, of course, at Shelly Palmer. Please tweet, take a screenshot if you feel like it. I would love you to do that if you can. Yeah, shuttery on my side. I know video quality is good, but it's like stuttery weird. I know. It's very strange what YouTube is doing. Anyway, we're just going to persevere because we have no choice but to persevere. POAPs. Every week we do a Shelly Palmer POAP. POAP is a proof of attendance protocol token. Many of you, most of you know what this is. You go to shellypalmer.com/POAP. If you collect 5 POAPs in exactly 2 weeks, if you have 5 POAPs, you can join us for a post-CES interactive online Zoom. You'll get information about that. If you have collected 5 POAPs, this is a perfect way to do it. You can actually collect any POAPs from any of the videos, the Web3 Wednesday videos that we have put up in the last month because the POAPs expire after 1 month. So you can go back and watch a couple of 3 of those and see how that all works out for you. But yeah, collect your POAP, shellypalmer.com/POAP, and come and join us at the interactive post-CES. It's the same tech briefing that we were doing for our clients, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And of course, you'll get to meet all the people who are also high-level POAP collector VIPs. So there's that. All right, jumping right in today because we got to jump right in. There was a pretty interesting Section 230 conversation that came up this past week. The Supreme Court is hearing a case that was brought by the family of Naomi Gonzalez. I'm going to read this here. I think it's Nohemi, Nohemi, Nohemi Gonzalez. She was killed in the 2015 Islamic State terrorist attack in Paris. And they're blaming this on YouTube and Google, and they're saying that YouTube videos aided ISIS and that YouTube should have, or Google or YouTube should have done something about it. So I think that's a pretty interesting case. It's before the Supreme Court right now. They're going to hear it. Now, for those of you who don't know what Section 230 is, it's Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And that was enacted in 1996. And the thought was that it was to protect platforms as opposed to publishers. It was to protect platforms from being responsible for content that was posted on it. So protecting a YouTube from user-generated content. They're just the platform. They're not the publisher, where the New York Times publishes something theoretically. YouTube doesn't. Facebook doesn't. These are Twitter doesn't. They're just platforms. Supreme Court's going to hear this case. It's pretty interesting. This comes on the heels of a couple of weeks ago in Seattle. The school board and the school district, one of the school districts, is suing Big Social across the board, saying that Big Social is harmful to their students. It's going to be really interesting because they're all going to try and hide behind Act 230 as well. So we're going to see how this works out. All right, what other stories do we have? Oh, we got some questions. Hold on. Let me see what this question is right here. Let's put this up for you guys. Let's see what it says. I want a Megan. Get one in my lifetime. Who's this from? Jason R. For for those of you, I actually was going to talk about this today. For those of you who haven't seen Megan, this is it. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's the star of a movie. AI toy turned murderer, I think, is the best way to describe it. It's a pretty funny concept. In fact, it's not a pretty funny concept. It's super creepy, by the way. There's this term, uncanny valley, that is used to describe this sort of like weird state between being fully human and fully android, and like you can kind of tell there's something a little weird and a little wrong, but you don't really know what it is. It's this uncannily human, or this uncanny valley zone. You can go look it up on YouTube. It's kind of fun. Anyway, a lot of people have asked me about Megan. I did my hit this week on Fox 5 in the morning was about could it be real? And if you look at this thing, it looks like a little girl. There are lots of pictures online you can go get. The official trailer's on YouTube. And, you know, the AI, malevolent AI, is pretty easy to understand. You can take an AI model and you can train it very quickly and turn into something awful. Microsoft has some experience with that with Tay from a few years back. It worked beautifully in Asia. They turned it on there, and all the little children in Asia were playing with it, and it was doing just fine, and everybody was respectful, and it was an entertainment toy, a little chat toy. This predates the large language models that we're using today for ChatGPT, which I see people are asking about, and we'll talk about in a second. So it took American teenagers. Microsoft didn't do much. They just, rather than saying, hey, we're doing a beta or something, they just launched it in America. And it took American teenagers about 4 hours to turn it into a misogynistic, homophobic, Hitler-loving AI model that was just unbelievably awful. Microsoft took it down. They tried to fix it. Again, this predates the large language model tools that they're using right now. And wow, it came right back, and it was worse. I mean, it took them under 4 hours to train it again to be awful. So the idea of training an AI to be awful, I think that's pretty easy, actually. I think it's way too easy, to be fair. And the reason is that if you are using a reinforcement learning and you reinforce the bad behaviors, it's going to behave badly. Letting us have a very hardcore philosophical conversation about what is good and what is bad, like what's a good behavior and what's a bad behavior. And I think if you sit down to really contemplate that in a philosophical way, you know, when a hungry man steals a loaf of bread, it's a crime. Is it? Sure it is. But what's a higher purpose? The commerce of the baker or the survival of the hungry person? We can go into this. I don't want to do it here. But just deciding what a good behavior and a bad behavior is, I think, is very difficult. Even for humans, where we enforce certain rules and we impose certain evolutionarily stable traits which have stood the test of time. If you talk to cultural anthropologists or you talk to evolutionary biologists, they're going to tell you that humans pair bond not because they want to, because it's an evolutionarily stable way. You form family groups, small family groups and small tribes because it's safer in numbers. You go back 10,000 years when everything was trying to kill you on the whole planet. You probably survived better in a group than you did by yourself. I think that's pretty obvious. So then, you know, small bureaucracies, then when they started to farm, obviously you wanted to defend the farmland because people who weren't able to farm wanted to kill you. So there's all kinds of things that have formed that, you know, these ideas of what is evolutionarily stable for humans as behavior, what is moral versus evolutionarily stable, what is pure survival. Like, you could go on and on. So training a model to be bad is not as easy as saying, you know, thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not murder, if there's a distinction between killing and murder. And that distinction would need to be explained pretty carefully. And remember that you don't train a model conditionally, you reinforce it. So you're not giving it if this, then that. you're giving it a set of good outcomes, and you're scoring the good outcomes, and you're scoring the bad outcomes, and you're encouraging it to do well. It's not very different from giving a dog a biscuit when you're training it. It's like, come over and bark and wag your tail when you need to go outside. Okay, here's a biscuit. Oh, you peed on the floor. Bad dog. It's very much like that. I'm oversimplifying, but it's not terribly different than that. It just isn't. So the idea of training something like Megan to be bad, the AI part, I think is actually relatively simple and would happen relatively quickly. You'd have to be the barometer of what's good and what's bad. You'd have to be the one to tell us what's good and what's bad. But I think the mechanical part of this robot is way beyond anything I have seen. I mean, way beyond anything I've seen. I've seen articulated hands that move. I've seen robots that paint extremely well. I've seen robots that weld and solder when they're programmed to do so. There are some things at Boston Dynamics and where they've built, robotic dogs, and they've built robots that can navigate stairs. I have really not seen an articulated robot that could get into a car with car keys, and if you had adjusted the seat in a way it was not expected by the robot, that it could find the ignition and put the key in the ignition and turn it. That I haven't seen. And while it's theoretically possible to build a robot that might be able to do that, a fully articulated humanoid robot that could get into a car, adjust the seat properly for itself, and figure out what to do. This is, I don't know if there's ever a business case to build it, but it's certainly, all of the robots we've seen that are android or humanoid as dolls or entertainment. And I'm not even talking about sex toys. I'm talking about companion robotics. It's just not at this level. It just isn't. And I don't think there's a business case to build it. One of the things I learned when we were working with Dr. Dustin Tyler at Case Western Reserve University, they have an institute called the Human Fusion Institute, and they build prosthetics that have haptic feedback built in, and I actually tried it out at CES. I got to physically put it on. It's amazing. Someone remotely squeezes the robotic hand and you can feel it. It's a tingle, like an e-stim tingle, but over a very short period of time, you get to understand that the intensity of the tingle is commensurate with the pressure. And I picked up a foam block and a hard block remotely with this hand, and I could squeeze it, and I could feel the difference between the hard block, foam block, or the rubber block and the foam block that I was squeezing. And I was doing this from hundreds of miles away. They were in Los Angeles, and we were in Las Vegas, so it was pretty cool. What I learned is that there are many more sensors going backwards to your brain than coming from your brain to your muscles. So it doesn't take a whole lot for your brain to tell your muscles what to do, but it takes an awful lot for your muscles and your skin and your sense of touch and feel to tell your brain what it's feeling and touching. It makes sense if you think about it. So now start to multiply the number of sensors you would need to just articulate a hand, and what the sensors have to do in the fingertips, and what they have to do for to build something that would have the kind of sensory awareness that a human has. You probably wouldn't need to go the full distance, although we've evolved in sort of the biological package that we're in. You're talking about a mechanical package. It probably could get away with a lot less from a sensor perspective, but I don't know. So it's a great question. You want a Megan? I don't think it's happening anytime soon. I don't. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions about Megan here. Here's a question about Microsoft. Okay. Microsoft. Let's go to Microsoft. I probably have a picture here. It's only going to have So yeah, Satya Nadella is in Davos, and he was interviewed in the Wall Street Journal video suite, and he said that they are planning to incorporate all of Microsoft's either OpenAI or some AI product into all of Microsoft's products going forward. So we're talking about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, go down the list. Every place you can think about Microsoft having a program, you can probably think about using AI to enhance it or embellish your experience. So I want to talk about that for a second because it poses a really interesting question for me. And that question is, should you take the time to learn ChatGPT right now, to go deep into the GPT tool set, to go deep into ChatGPT or other OpenAI products like DALL-E 2, or should you get really deep into the art programs like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, which has quickly become my favorite? So it's a really interesting question. Or should you wait until mainstream software companies incorporate some version of these AI tools into their software? So I can imagine Microsoft Word just incorporating ChatGPT, and as you're writing, rather than it just suggesting, you will play a game of 20 questions with Microsoft Word, and what's going to come out is a co-written document, you and ChatGPT. I can easily imagine doing a PowerPoint where you ask ChatGPT to do a series of bullets based on a paragraph, a descriptive paragraph, and then very simply, you ask it for those bullets, and then if you want a picture, you say, wow, I need a picture of a glass of water half full. It's not going to go out to Getty Images and get it. It's going to have Midjourney just bang you out a picture of a glass on a table half full. It's going to be completely copyright free. It's going to be hassle free. It's going to be search free. You didn't spend any time doing it. Think about the time, like assuming you're doing a PowerPoint for an internal presentation, and sometimes you do a slide. The glass isn't half full, it's half empty, or the glass isn't half empty, it's half full, or whatever. You go out to the internet, you're going to go to Google Images, and you're going to search that image. It's at least a minute and a half. You'll get something, you'll scroll down, okay, is it the right size? Does it have any text on it? Do you need to clean it up? You're going to bring it into PowerPoint. You're just trying to have some graphic on the page. You got 3 bullets about state of the business, state of the economy, state of the brand. 4 bullets. You want to make them pretty. Do you imagine just describing that page? Hey, here's the information off of this spreadsheet. This is our numbers to date. It's not a terrible story. I'd like to use a metaphor that the glass is half full. Give me 3 bullet points and a picture of a glass half full on a table. That's going to take you about a minute, and the slide is finished. So that takes a 15-minute slide down to a minute or 2. I'm sorry. Multiply that by 10 slides in a deck you need for a meeting. Craziness. So there's every single place you look, there is a productivity enhancing or cost-cutting measure you can create using these large language models. ChatGPT is the flavor of the moment. There will be more. Google is not going to sit on its hands. It has Lambda, which is a model that it could use to do this easily. Will they? No, they make 150 billion or something a year charging you for things you click on. They're going to have to charge you a subscription fee for this, and it's going to replace Google, the search engine, immediately, because I would much rather ask a large language model that had read the entire internet to give me some information. Now, that said, our friends at CNET started using ChatGPT to write some articles. And it made the news this week because it did such a bad job with it. And I think it's really kind of funny. It's really kind of funny when you think about it. The article that I saw was entitled, "What are NSF fees and why do banks charge them?" And the byline was simply CNET money. But if you clicked on it, it said, this article was created using an AI engine and reviewed, fact-checked, and edited by our editorial staff. Yeah? Is that what happened? So then why did they, this week, have so many errors in their computer-generated stuff if it was reviewed, edited, and fact-checked by their staff? Obviously, it was neither reviewed, edited, nor fact-checked, at least not at the normal level that it would be. So I thought that was pretty unusual. And look, ChatGPT is not the next coming of the Lord Jesus in any way. It just isn't. It is a tool. It's like a hammer or a screwdriver or anything. Anything. It's a tool. You need to use it. You personally need to use it. So when I use ChatGPT, I coach it. And the way that I coach it, we call prompt crafting. I don't know if that's the right term, by the way. Some people are calling it prompt engineering or prompt tuning, but I think those are terms of art for coders. We're just calling it prompt crafting here. I don't know if that's the right or the wrong and if it's going to last or not, but it's what we call it internally. And the way that I've been using ChatGPT, I will give it instructions, but first I tell it what it is. So I'll say, act as a brilliant tech consultant who has many Fortune 500 clients, because I want it to think that way. I want it to think that's what it is. Describe the following, and then I'll give it, or paraphrase the following, or give me 3 reasons why such and such, or what are the best blank blank. And if I don't like an answer, I will keep, and if it runs out of characters, you just say, please continue, and it'll keep going. So it's got like a 650 character limit in the test version, and you can ask it to continue. And just keep coaching it. You just keep asking it to do more and more and more. And ultimately, it will do more and more and more. And when you get it where you want it, you copy and paste it, and then you start to edit it. Now, I write somewhere around 4,000 words a week, 5,000 words a week professionally. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And I'll tell you personally, I find it way easier to edit than to sit down and originally write something. I've been originally writing every morning, as you know, many of you who get our newsletter every day. You can go to shellypalmer.com and subscribe to it. But I do a daily rant. I write 250 to 500 to 1,000 words in the morning, depending on what tickles me. And on Sunday, I write a thought leadership piece for 1,000, 1,500 words. I do that pretty much every day of the weekday. Saturday, we have a synopsis. We do either AI Saturdays or Web3 Saturdays. I think we're in AI Saturdays right now, which are synopsis of the week's best stories. But Sunday, I write a thought leadership piece that's original, and I write an original rant every morning based on something that I think is interesting. I would say since November, when ChatGPT became available to use all the time, and I know some people are writing that they can't get into ChatGPT right now. They're overloaded. That's sure they are. You just have to keep trying to get a login. But when you get your login, I'd say I use it 3 to 4 times a day for anything I need to write. Recommendation letters, cover letters, proposals, any kind of summary. I will take, for example, the transcript of a Zoom. Take a whole Zoom meeting, like an hour-long Zoom meeting. And as you know, there are many tools that are available that are called speech-to-text converters. They don't understand what they're writing, but they do recognize words very, very well. So we have a version of that. You run that software, take the transcript, put it in ChatGPT, and ask it to give you bullets. Now, I've seen people who have done the next level up. They've taken those bullets and they have done the entire workflow and process. What is the workflow and process? Take the meeting, summarize it, pull the action items. Thanks for the meeting. It was great to see everybody. You said this, we said that. Our action items are these, your action items are those. If that's not your understanding, please respond by return email. Very truly yours, me. And that gets mailed to everybody who was in the meeting. We do that with every single meeting. I've seen that workflow fully automated using ChatGPT and Zapier. So that's a pretty cool thing. I did something kind of funny the other day. When I saw the article about this article here, I saw this article about very sad. Teachers and chatbots and students, no teachers seem to know how to deal with ChatGPT. So I have to find for you, because I wasn't prepared to show it, but I have to find for you this thing. What I did, I will find this in a moment, and actually I'm going to tell you about it while I look for it. So what is interesting is I wanted to get some artwork for the blog post that I wrote about that. And I thought, well, that's interesting. How are we going to do that? So there is a tool that I use called Midjourney. And Midjourney's a really fun, let me just see if I can get Discord happening here real fast. I'm just going to call that up. You give me a second to do that. So Midjourney, you talk to it in Discord, you go /imagine, and then you put in a prompt. And the prompt can be pretty much anything you want it to be. You can just describe something pretty low key, or you can describe something pretty hardcore. It's your call. Let me just save this image real fast. I'll save it here. Yeah, that'll work. And then I will bring it into this program, and I'm just going to add a photo input. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just bring this in for you. I didn't know I was going to do this. I apologize. Ordinarily, I would have done this in advance, but let's see if we can get this to show. All right. I asked ChatGPT to take my description of these students and to just give me the nouns and the adjectives. So I wrote a kind of a paragraph. Students are disgruntled and they're sad, and I wrote the whole thing in prose. And then I asked ChatGPT, give me just the nouns and the adjectives. And it gave me daytime, inside, I'm reading these, small class, students concentrating on laptop and Chromebooks, working on in-class essay, teacher suspicious. And I told it the version number. And this is what Midjourney drew in about 3 minutes. It gave me these 4 different groups of students drawn. And you can, I mean, I got to tell you, that's an interesting use of ChatGPT if you think about it. Because what I had to do is streamline I had it streamline my description so I could give Midjourney just the nouns and adjectives that it needed to understand the kind of artwork that I wanted. Then I added in that I wanted it done as a drawing as opposed to a photo. And had I said photorealistic or vibrant colors, I would have gotten something else. So I did describe the kind of artwork that I wanted by saying, what did I say in here? Hand-drawn acrylic, muted colors. And so that's, and then I gave it version 4, and I told it I wanted the aspect ratio of 3:2. It has basically a vertical and a horizontal way that it puts stuff out. So, but I thought, when you think about, like, this is pretty good. Each one of these could get enlarged. I don't know which one I like the best. But considering that the whole thing was just done using a very strange workflow and process. So I described what I wanted, but then I actually had ChatGPT dissect it. Of course, I could have gone in and pulled out the nouns, or I could have just thought in nouns. I didn't do any of that. I just asked ChatGPT to do my work for me because I did, and it did, which was cool. Just a little bit of promo. On Tuesdays we put out Tech Stream. Seth Everett and Shelly Palmer. Tech Stream is a podcast about pop culture and tech. I mean, that's what I would call it. It's kind of both things together. So if you're into pop culture and tech and you want to hear me and Seth rant at each other, make kind of weird little funny jokes, and well, they're funny to us anyway. So we think we're hysterical. I don't know if you will, but we think we're really funny. Anyway, wherever podcasts are sold. Questions, folks. Let's get some questions in here if you can. What does this one say? Microsoft. Yeah, this one I don't have an answer for. I'm a teacher in my school and has absolutely no idea how to police ChatGPT. Any tips? Jackson W. So don't police it. Teach it. Students find ways to cheat. They just find ways to cheat. Students cheat. It's what they do. They learn how to do it. It's kind of like a weird thing. Human beings lie from birth. I'm sorry. Babies learn how to cry. And they learn how to cry when they're hungry. They learn how to cry when they're distressed. And they learn how to cry when they just want their mom. And guess what? they figure out real quickly that if they do the hungry cry, mom always comes. They do the distressed cry, mom comes faster. They're not distressed or hungry. They just want their mom. But they don't go for the I want my mom's cry. They go for the I'm freaking out cry, and it works. Students cheat. They just cheat. There's nothing you can do about it. I know I teach a class at Syracuse at the Newhouse School, and I love my students, but they definitely press the envelope. You're teaching on Zoom. You're proctoring tests. You're using Blackboard. You see 6 students give the same answer to a question, and you say to yourself, no collusion there. Same wording, same everything. Come on, guys. Was I born yesterday? However, I think you want to really understand this process, really understand it. You're going to need to start teaching. Now, it's not just prompt crafting you're going to have to teach. You're going to have to teach enhanced productivity and a different way to think. And this is a fundamental rethinking of how we teach. And people are going to say this is, I got a lot of pushback from this. What is the purpose of the education, and what's the level of education we need for our students right now? And the first question that you get asked by a professional educator is why are you becoming educated? Like, what is your goal for your education? Are you going to school for intellectual curiosity? Are you going to learn a trade? Are you going to learn a profession? Why are you being educated? I don't think I want to try to answer that question, but let's talk about K through 12 for a minute and say, what's the baseline of education you would need in 2023? I don't need to be able to recite in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue, because if I type in any version of mangled 1490 something Columbus did something and I spell every word wrong, Google's going to know what I mean. And when you ask any of the voice assistants, the ones that understand will understand the words, whether or not they have the information or not, the words are understood. If I have a large language model that I can access, like a Chat GPT, what is it I need to know to come to that tool set? It's not the facts. I need to be able to critically think. I need to be able to Socratically debate. I need to have a baseline understanding of the English language. I'm going to argue you probably need an education that looks a whole lot like the education you would have got at Cambridge or Oxford in 1770, where the whole body of knowledge of mankind could be taught in 4 years. Reading, writing, arithmetic, social sciences, natural sciences, philosophy, theology. Just understand what the human race understands and what the human beings tend to encounter. I'd love to have a Socratic conversation or a thoughtful debate with somebody about what is right and what is wrong when I'm thinking about AI bias and programming. We started the show today talking about how do you know what's right when you're talking about AI? Like, could you make Megan? Okay, the first thing you need to do is agree on what's the moral code. It's not necessarily Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics. What's the baseline of education we need right now, and how would we teach our students to be more productive and have a more enriched life through the education that we give them? What do they need to learn? I don't think I need to have people memorize stuff past a point. Do you need to know your multiplication tables by rote from 1 to 9? 9 times 9 is 81. Yeah, okay. Do I need to know those? I learned them in what, second grade or third grade or first grade or one of those grades. It was early. You probably need to know those, probably. Do I need to know certain Euclidean geometry by heart? Probably. Do I need to know some basic spelling by heart? Probably. Do I need to know facts about Philo T. Farnsworth and his journey to invent modern television as we understand it? I need to know that somebody invented it, and I need to understand the question I'm asking, which is, if I'm interested in the man, that's one thing. If I'm interested in the technology, that's something else. I'm interested in understanding the derivation of the technology so I can understand the thought process behind it, or I want to see the papers and patents that are associated with it. That's something else too. Do I need to memorize this stuff? Of course not. I'm going to go search it. So if I have a tool that's read the entire internet, which is all the publicly available information, and I can then train it with scholarly works of my own, or I can train it with my own models that make it even more expert. What am I going to teach my kids? What's the baseline of education? So I think students and teachers are going to have a pivotal moment now. Because if you tell a student to go write an essay and they run it through Quillbot to rewrite it after ChatGPT writes it 3 times, and then you run it through Quillbot to make sure it passes the plagiarism checker, and you hand it in, there's no teacher in the world that has a tool that's going to figure out that that was written by anybody but you, unless it doesn't sound like you. We're 5 minutes away from being able to give one of these models 100 examples of your own writing and have it know how you write. In my voice, write the following. I had actually that experience. You probably know I write every day, and I publish every day. I publish on the internet. Well, ChatGPT has read the internet through 2021. Up to 2021, I have something on the order of 19,000 blog posts. So I had a feeling it had read some of my work. So when I didn't like the way it was writing, I asked it to write in the style of Shelly Palmer, which may sound kind of weirdly narcissistic or egomaniacal. It's just a test. It worked. As a matter of fact, there's an article at shellypalmer.com called Who Wrote It? The third paragraph of that writing, I would have thought I wrote myself. And if I go back and read it now, I probably would think I wrote it myself, except it was written by ChatGPT. It was the third try. I'm not going to say it was the first try. And I had asked it to do it specifically in my style once I'd figured out that it would understand what that meant. Do I have a style? I know exactly how I write. I write conversationally. It's not a report writing. I know what it is. I can describe it. I didn't have to. It had read enough of my work. But that's because it's public. You could have a model where you train the intermediate model with your own stuff. So imagine a company that has its own coworker employee. Atori is Rossetti's asked a question, do you have a use case for nonprofits with ChatGPT and AI? I don't have one use case. I have a million use cases, and the million use cases go like this. You will, over time, find some middleware that you will train, and that middleware will become an employee of your company, and it will be specially trained on the way you specially train an employee. It will have institutional knowledge, the way that workers have institutional knowledge, and you will leverage that. And it won't be interchangeable. Once it's really well trained in your company, it won't be interchangeable. So just to use random companies, a Ford coworker, AI coworker, would not be able to go work at GM, would not be able to just be transported over there, because it would know the workflows and processes that happen at Ford as opposed to the ones that happen at GM, as opposed to the ones that happen at Tesla. And as you know, every company has similar workflows and processes, but they're not exactly the same. They all have different corporate acronyms. Every company that I work with, all the big companies we work with, have initialisms and abbreviations and crazy words that they make up for stuff. This is our, sustainability something, blah, blah. And it's like, it's SS3B. It's like, what is SS3B? I don't know what SS3B is. That's the ESG Sustainability Task Force at XYZ company. Well, you train an AI to know what that is. That's not transportable. It's not going to transport. So that's what's coming. It's actually what's here. It's not what's coming. It's actually what's here. And I think that's super important. One of the things I want to tell you about is we've got a... Oh, no, that's not what I want to tell you. You can send questions to Twitter. That's not what I wanted to tell you. Let me see if I can put it here. Yeah, we have this thing, this Web3 database. This is what I was looking for. It's shellypalmer.com/web3-database. And we're putting all kinds of Web3 and AI stuff in there. And it's pretty sweet right now. So if you've got something to contribute to that, please do. And if you have some ideas for additions to it, go for it. I would welcome any suggestions, but it's a free resource. We're not charging for it. We just put it there, and it's like it's getting super cool. Like, it's becoming a really fun thing. So, of course, as always, if you have a question about any of this, you can email me, Shelly at shellypalmer.com. Totally happy to take your questions at any time. We have been really good about responding recently because we're using AI to help. Seriously, we are really working hard on workflows and processes that are all about, literally all about, using the tools. We're eating our own dog food and we're practicing what we preach. So, yeah. What else? Oh, yeah, Jeff Ratner, you're 100% right. Effective marketing is often the result of exploiting unique consumer insights. If we become more reliant on AI-based targeting and creative solutions, aren't we putting a black box between the brand and the consumer? Yes, you're 100% correct. If we do that, then that's what will happen. I think what's really important for everyone to keep thinking and just keep repeating after me, technology is a fancy word for tools. AI is a tool. It's just another tool. I have a hammer. I'm going to build a house. I have a power hammer. I have a hammer that has a band of nails that's automatic and pneumatic. Sure, there are lots of different ways you can use a hammer, but you need to decide what you're going to build. You're going to have plans to build it, and yes, you'll choose the right hammer for the job. Business outcome first, tool set second. Business outcome first. So where are the gaps? What data do you need? What research do you need? What workflow and process would help you? Where this thing enhances productivity isn't relying on it to do your work, because it can't. It never will be able to. When ChatGPT is right, it's dead right. When it's wrong, it's really wrong. You need to be able to know the difference. You need to be schooled in your own art. You can't rely. I don't rely on articles from other scholars. I don't rely on articles from contemporaries and colleagues. I always look for consensus. I'll always make a phone call. Hey, so-and-so said this. You think that's right? Why would I not leverage my network and do all of the kind of armchair research, as well as proprietary research, as well as look at other people's research to try and get enough data to formulate an opinion, and then understand and disclaim and say, I might not even have this right, but based on the information I could gather and what I think I understand, and using the Socratic method or the scientific method as best I could, this is what I've come up with. That's how you use a tool set. You don't press a button and go, do my job. And the people who do that are going to fail miserably. Not a little bit, miserably. And so there's going to be all kinds of silly going on as people start to think this is some kind of magic elixir, some kind of silver bullet. It isn't. You are the silver bullet. This is a productivity tool you can learn to use. We'll talk more about that next week and the week after. Don't forget to get your ShellyPalmer.com POAP, Proof of Attendance Protocol token. And remember, collect 5 of them, and you can come to the Super Secret Handshake meetings. The next Super Secret Handshake meeting is going to be an online debrief from CES. We're going to do a really nice get-together on Zoom. It'll be interactive. We'll yuck it up a little bit. We'll spend about a half hour, 45 minutes just talking about the coolest stuff at CES and what it meant, to me and what it meant to some of my clients. And you'll get to meet all the other POAP holders who have joined us over the last 30. We put out 32 or 33 POAPs so far. So collecting 5 isn't hard. Again, it's shellypalmer.com/POAP. One last time, that's the email address, Shelly at shellypalmer.com. And I would ask you, please, 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 at Shelly Palmer, just a little tweet. Take a screenshot. Tell me I'm awesome. Tell me I suck, but tell me something. At Shelly Palmer on Twitter. I'd really appreciate it. It would really help us out. We're trying to get serious about social media. You can do it as part of your Instagram story or your Facebook story if you want. You can just take a screenshot and go right ahead and tell everybody you're watching. You'll be able to watch all week and pick up a POAP all week and tell your friends. Anyway, thank you so much. This is my favorite time of the week is to spend time with you doing this. If we can help you in any way, please reach out. Until next time, I'm Shelly Palmer for All Us the Palmer Group. Have a great week.